that, we're going to international news now. Donald Trump, the Republican presidential hopeful in the United States and very much the front runner on that side, hit the headlines again last night with another controversial statement. This time he's calling for all Muslims to be banned from entering the United States until, and I quote, the nation's leaders can figure out what exactly is going on. On the line now, Larry Donnelly, law lecturer in NUI Galway, and also on the line, Sheikh Dr. Shaykh Umar Al-Qadri, the Imam of Blanchardstown Mosque in Dublin. Good morning to you both. Before we hear from you, let's hear an extract, I should say, of what Donald Trump had to say.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. We have no choice. We have no choice. We can be politically correct and we can be stupid, but it's going to get worse and worse. Until we are able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad.
And that's Donald Trump. We'll come back to that. Shaykh Umar Al-Qadri, what were your initial reactions or thoughts when you heard this statement?
Well, to be honest, this particular statement, absolutely, it's an appalling statement from Donald Trump, but I wasn't surprised because considering that this is the same person that has called previously for mosques to be under surveillance, for Muslims to wear ID badges, and this is the same person that is actually using racism, ignorance, fear, and the lack of rational thinking to rise to political power. It's absolutely shocking that some people, a minority of people, but quite a big number that seem to agree with him on social media. That's what is shocking, and that he can get away with saying these things despite the fact that America is the country that I think that it stands on religious freedom, and that is what it was built on. But apparently this person is eliminating and totally ignoring these facts, and he is trying to motivate and inspire people and exploit the sentiments and the fear of the people by spreading this hatred of the whole Muslim community. And he is actually ignoring the fact that the biggest threat to the United States are the mass shootings, not these lone wolf attacks by extremists. In 2015 alone, there were 351 mass shootings in the United States.
Yes, but the most recent mass shooting was one that had terrorist connotations, and we saw what emerged in the aftermath of the one last week in California. And this is something that is, if you like, people like Trump are exploiting. And I'm just wondering, are you concerned that, for instance, he could, in fact, on the back of this, actually go all the way to the White House?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much worried, and I think the Muslim community in the United States and globally are very much worried. And to be honest, I think Donald Trump is the hero of ISIS. He is the hero of Daesh, because this is exactly what Daesh and ISIS want. They want Muslims to feel alienated. They want Muslims to feel that they're not part of, the Western world, and they should actually join this so-called Islamic State. So he is their hero. And I think that he is very similar, to be honest, with Hitler, because this is how Hitler came into power. Hitler was able to, the Holocaust did not happen in one day. There were circumstances, there was a situation, political environment that led to the Holocaust. And unfortunately, we as Muslims are very much worried that will it really take another Holocaust for people to realize that Islamophobia is a real problem? That will it really take another Holocaust now for people to realize this?
Larry Donnelly, I'm just looking at Neil O'Dowd's column in this morning's Irish Independent, where he says that a senior figure in the Clinton camp told him last week that even they are starting to get worried, saying that Trump is skating along on top of all the hysteria and the overblown rhetoric. They had thought it would fade away. It's not happening. And then there's a worry that another ISIL-type incident in America could harden the position of right-wingers even more and lead to a stampede to support Trump.
That's the big worry, and I think in relation to the points that the other person made, I think that's the big worry that we would have, is if, and I'm one of those who still thinks that Donald Trump will fade, and indeed we see he's been surpassed now in the most recent poll in Iowa, but the big variable here is if there's a major scale terrorism incident in the United States that's connected to ISIS. If that happens, then all bets are out the window, because as horrible as that would be, I think the aftermath of it would be even more horrible. And I think in many ways, people would flock to Trump, I think, to some extent. And again, we'd be looking at a very, very dangerous global situation. So that's the real variable here that nobody really wants to think about.
And coming back again to yourself, Shaykh Umar Al-Qadri, do you think this kind of thinking is peculiar to the United States as well, alone, or do you think, as Larry is suggesting there, it's the kind of thinking that could grow in other countries, even here?
Well, absolutely. Well, not in Ireland, at least, I believe, but definitely in other Western countries. We have seen the rise of Pegida in Germany. We have seen the rise of right-wing extremism or right-wing political parties in the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. And what they all have in common is that they exploit the fear and these lone wolf attacks and exploit the fear of the people for their political, agenda. And what happens is that the communities divide, and the Muslim community as a whole is actually now, the victim of these attacks, despite the fact that Muslims, condemn ISIS. They are the biggest victims of ISIS, and we condemn terrorism. And I think that people need to realize that they should actually, rather than pushing the Muslims to the side of radicalization by alienating them, they should include them in dialogue, because it's us that are also affected by ISIS, and we should be part of the dialogue to come to a solution for this problem that the world